Let's see how to implement cookie-based authentication. And we are going to develop full stack application with the client and then the backend. And from there, we will implement with APIs only. So let's get into it. Over here, I'm going to create a new folder called concept number 11, and I'm going to use cookies auth authentication with client only. Or let me say with client. Then let's go ahead and initialize this project as npm so that we can install Express. So I'm going to right click and open in the integrated terminal, or you can use your external terminal. So over here, I'm going to make use of npm init --y --yes instead, and hit enter. And let's go ahead and install Express, and we are going to use UJS as UJS, and that is it. And I'm going to install Node MERN for automatically restarting the server anytime you make changes. So npm I Node MERN and -d as dev dependencies. So next step is that I'm going to configure the package.json file, and I'm going to use server instead of test. And I'm going to use Node MERN to start the server at server.js. So let me change the main one here to server.js. For this, we have already explained how to use this, and even we have built some couple of mini projects how to use Express server with some template engines. So over here inside, I'm going to create one folder called views. And for this, I don't need the public folder because we are going to use Bootstrap. So inside here, I'm going to have these templates. One is the home.ujs and also login.ujs, supposed to be UJS instead. And lastly is going to be the dashboard. And to make our life easier, I'm going to paste these templates. And definitely I'll provide this template for you. So the first one is going to be the dashboard.ujs. So I'm going to place it inside the views. And let me collapse the node modules. The next one is going to be the home. And lastly is going to be the login. All right. So let's look at the structure. For the dashboard, we have the Bootstrap CDN, and I have used some inline CSS as that. And over here, we are injecting the value from the server. And for this, we have already explained, and we have a link to log out. So let's look at the home page with the static text and then the login with the form that points to action /login. It means that we need to implement this route. And the method here is post. And we have name here as username. Don't worry, when we get to the login in, I will show you how we are going to use these properties. For the meantime, understand the structure. The next step is that I'm going to create the server.js for the server configuration. So let's go ahead and require Express is equal to require Express as that, and const app is equal to Express. For this, since we are going to use the browser, we are going to use this middleware as app.use express.url encoded. And then inside, we are going to say extended to true. What is the purpose for this middleware? This middleware is used to pass incoming requests with the URL encoded payload. URL encoded data is the way browsers send form data from the HTML forms. So when setting the extended option to true, it allows the middleware to pass extended syntax, allowing rich objects and arrays to be URL encoded into the query string. This setting is important when receiving data from the HTML form, and that is what we are going to use. And let's go ahead and set the view engine. And it's going to be app.set. And one more time, we have used this or discussed this intensively. So here, I'm going to move fast. And then comma, the template here is going to be nodejs. And we need to save the views folder. So here, I'm going to use app.set. And then inside, I'll provide the views folder and then comma path. So I need to require the path module as const path is equal to require the path module. So here path dot join. And we are going to use __ their name, and we are going to serve the views folder. And like I said, to make the process easier for you to understand, I'm not going to incorporate database into it. So over here, we are going to simulate database for users. So here I will say simulated users or simulated database of users. Meaning that these are the users that are allowed to log in into our system. So I will say const users is equal to array of users by providing username, and I'm going to use John for this. And then the password, I'm going to use 123. Let me use string as that. And then I'll provide a row, and I will say the row here is admin. Let me duplicate and have one for Sarah. And then the password gonna be 456. And the row here is going to be user. Now we have the authenticated users. Now next step is that we are going to create the home route. So I will say home route. And I'm going to use app.get and / and then the callback function. And we have access to rec and response. So inside here, we are going to use res.render, and we are going to render the home.nodejs, and I can ignore the extension. And next step is that we are going to create one for logging in. So I'm going to duplicate this one as login route. For the meantime, we are going to render the template only without the actual logic. So this one is for rendering the login form. All right. So it's supposed to be / login. And you're going to have the actual one for the implementation of the login in. So I'm going to duplicate this one as login route logic. The difference here is that we are going to use post over here. All right, don't worry, we are going to fill up with this logic. For the meantime, let me remove this. And I'm going to create one for the dashboard. So here I will say dashboard route. And for the meantime, we are going to render the dashboard.nodejs, and we're going to have one for logging out. So here as logout route, and it's going to be logout. Change the endpoint for this to dashboard. So let's go ahead and start the server. and it's going to be app.listen, and pass in the port. I'm going to use 3000 and comma the log to inform the user that the server is running. So let's go ahead and start our server to make sure that everything is working fine. But since I have an application that is using this port, I'm going to change this port to 3001. Now let me open the terminal and make use of npm run server. Alright, the server is running, so I'm going to use our application as /3001, and we have the template. If I click on the get started, as you can see, the form has been rendered. Let me show you the flow over here. When I click on the get started, so let's get into the home page, views and home page. We have a button that says that get started. In this case, we use a tag. And the endpoint is going to be /login, which matches this endpoint for logging in, because we are using get here. Because anytime you use href, the method here is going to be get method. Therefore, this endpoint or route is going to be called. That is why it rendered the login page as we see over here. And I have already provided some default values inside that. If you check inside the login, now over here, inside the value, I have provided the default values as John and the password as this. And this will help me not manually entering the user details anytime I want to log in. Now, if I click on the login, nothing is happening because we haven't implemented the login logic. In the next video, let's get into that.